Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this webinar on marine research with ERC funding. We are very happy to host you, to welcome you. And this webinar is organized by EURAXESS Latin America and the Caribbean and EURAXESS North America. My name is Charlotte. I am from EURAXESS Latin America, one of the two representatives with my colleague Victoria. I'm based in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and she's based in Bogota, Colombia. So what's the ERC? The ERC is a recent European funding organization for excellent frontier research. It was set up by the European Union in 2007, so very recent, and it's part of the European Commission program for research and innovation called Horizon Europe. And as you can see, the European Research Council stays in the first pillar that is about excellence science. The ERC has a budget of 16 million euros for the 7 years period of 2021 to 2027. The ERC funds creative researchers of any nationalities, we will hear it, any age, to run projects across Europe in all fields of research. But today we will focus on marine research, and you will hear several types of projects because the ERC has 4 main funding schemes called grants, from starting researchers as young as PhD plus 2 years of research experience to more advanced researchers. The Synergy grant is the only one that funds group of researchers, 2 to 4 principal investigators that jointly address a scientific breakthrough. Today we will welcome researchers working on topics related to oceans and marine science in a starting, Consolidator, and a Synergy project. So thank you very much for being with us, Sebastian, Marco, and Carolina. We are very happy to have you. And without any further delay, I would like to give the floor to Sebastian Villasante Larramendi, who's based at Universidad de Santiago de Compostela in Spain, with his ERC EQUALSEA project that is a Consolidator ERC project. Sebastian, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Charlotte, for the introduction. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. It's our pleasure to stay here to share our personal experience about getting and managing an ERC grant, how we prepared it and how we were funded in the topic of, in my case, marine reserve, and my case is the EQUALSEA project. As Charlotte said, I applied for a Consolidator grant because I was just in the middle between 7 to 8 years when I applied for the ERC. It was my first time that I applied. So I received a lot of courage, motivation to really try to prepare the proposal. As you know, it is a very competitive proposal, highly competitive, with thousands of proposals submitted to the panels, to the different panels, and the different modalities, starting, Consolidator, and advanced, and synergies. My case is about EQUALSEA, and my proposal is about ocean equity in the context of global biodiversity loss and climate change. I will start, I have only 15 minutes, so I will start just to sharing some personal thoughts about how, at least from my modest point of view, how I did to try to get fund my proposal. These are just some tips. I will not go through to all of them, but basically try to think a couple of points on positioning yourself in how to, you are good positioning to have a good idea to try to present a proposal to the ERC grant. Review your professional career, especially in terms of formal requirement, because there are, as Charlotte said already, all of the information is in the website of the ERC, and you will see that there are some different modalities according to how many years you finish your PhD thesis, your first PhD thesis, right? except of the synergy grant, which is possible to apply at any stage of our research career. Then basically try to be really ambitious for your research in the context, in this case particular, of the marine research. I will be then sharing some specific ideas about my project, but what I was thinking in a passionate but at the same time in an ambitious way was, well, what is the main huge challenge in my field of research in the marine arena? I work on, so I am an economist by training, but I do interdisciplinary research. And I am from the region, from Argentina. And so I had been working previously in different research programs to work and doing field work in the area, in the case of Latin America. But for the ERC proposals, you can apply for funding to empirically test your framework, your methods, and your case studies in any part of the world. The most important thing is your main idea, how your idea is groundbreaking and high gain in terms of societal benefit around the world. What I did also is to share my idea with other grantees and other panelists that they were evaluators from the different panelists, because it's important to also start sharing your ideas, your thoughts on how innovative is your idea that you have in mind. Maybe in the beginning, of course, you have an idea, and maybe you think, oh, this is not good enough. All of us, you always try to think in that way. But then you can, well, identify not only a huge research challenge, but also what is the main gap in your particular topic that you are working on. At least this is what I did. Then when you try to develop this type of proposals, you need to take into account that this is really take a time, not only months, sometimes, well, depending on the research career, depending on your duties, sometimes it takes 1 year, sometimes a couple of months, but it really takes careful thinking, reflection, and really robust proposal. Then, of course, be consistent and persistent, because this is a long term, and also have the support of your proposal from your institution. This is very important in my view. And especially, of course, this is as any very competitive research grants. Of course, this is a stress, there is a stress in your life, but at the same time, I prefer to enjoy the process, really be passionate. And while this is a road that I will be, try to transition through and if I get funded, that is great. But if not, well, that is a process that it can help you to improve, let's say, your skills in writing proposal and so on. And of course, some colleagues apply several times. I know several colleagues, I applied just for the first time and I have been funded, but this is not really the rule. This is probably the exception. So don't get frustrated and enjoy the process, because the ERC is really, really amazing in supporting when you are funded in all of these needs that you have in managing and carrying out your proposal. So when you are writing your proposal, think in different key points that the requirements of the call, well, for the 3 main modalities, that they are individual ones, like starting, consolidator, and advanced. Think on what is the great challenge, thinking why now? Why is important the idea that I am proposing in my field? Why is relevant in terms of policy and societal impact? Why try to justify the excellence of your idea? Because this is the main criteria that the evaluator panels will be evaluating your proposal. Try to think on and justify an argument very well why you are providing, for example, novel concepts or methods or even tools that you are proposing in your research proposal. What is the societal impact, and also in not only thinking your scientific, let's say, field, but also how credible is this idea? How feasible are the ideas in terms of the time that we have, usually 5 years in the 3 modalities I mentioned previously, but also how feasible is in terms of magnitude of effort in a team with the amount of money that we are asking for, right? So this is very important, not only be ambitious, ambitious in terms of the research idea, but also try to calibrate the effort. Oh, this is really realistic that it can be achieved in my research proposal. How feasible is this to be implemented in the 5 years of the proposal? In my case, it was a Consolidator grant. I started in 2021. And also calibrate the effort in terms of high risk and high gain, right? So try to justify very well what would be the impact at the societal level. Can be local, can be regional, or can be global, or a combination of them, right? But really, we really need to justify what is the groundbreaking character, the innovation of the proposal, right? And also develop a risk plan. What happens if some of the tasks that we propose fails over time? And propose, of course, contingent measure, because this is mandatory according to the code. So in terms of formal requirements, I will not go in deep, but given that I wanted to show my personal experience, this is exactly the formal requirements that for the Consolidator, and I think for the advanced and for starting grant is more or less the same. So you need to prepare a B1, which is a one proposal, which is the B1, which is a summary, a more shortened version of the proposal, and then B1 is the more extended proposal, right? But in any case, in B1, you need to be you need to provide an extended synopsis, and this is what I prepare and articulate my strategy for B1. Identify a key global challenge, which in my case was the inequality is increasing around the world. So marine resources are increasingly, growingly be distributed in an equally way around the world. And Latin America is one of the regions in which these marine resources are not equally distributed. And also, I try to also identify not only this social aspect, but also who will be benefit from my proposal. And for example, identify indigenous communities working in the Amazon in Brazil, and also women and migrants in the case, for example, of coastal communities in West Africa, in which, as you probably know, is the site in the world with the highest illegal fishing in the world, which is creating, negative impacts into the coastal population in different countries of the West Africa, that they are forcing coastal community to migrate, for example, to Europe. So here we are, what I try to do is to connect not only a global challenge, which is the global marine resources are in trouble, not only at global level, but also in West Africa and in Latin America, that they were the areas that I'm working on, but also which are the segment of the population or group of people, so the human dimension of the proposal that could potentially be benefit from that. And then, state explicitly what are the research objectives and the hypotheses. I articulate, this is quite free in the sense that it's not mandatory to methodologically speaking to include working package, formally speaking, but this is what I did, right? And other colleagues do more or less the same, but this is not really formally mandatory to do it, right? And also I justify what is the feasibility and especially the impact on society and policy. For example, when I was proposing some activities in the proposal, we are working in marine protect areas. And as you know, marine protect areas are being proposed as the, let's say, the magical or the panacea tool to protect marine resources around the world, which I agree, of course. But at the same time, we have the human dimension. Who will benefit and who harm from this implementation of marine activities and from the 30 of the Global Biodiversity Framework Strategy? And so I try to implement tasks and special tools that I will talk later a little bit in detail in terms of policy and societal dimensions of marine protect area. So I am measuring around the world what is the equity of the marine protect implementation around the world with different case studies. And then you need to justify in step 1, in B1, your CV, right? In my case, you need to show a clear sign of independence from your supervisor, right? In the case of the Consolidator grant. And what I did is I tried to show a promising track record of early achievement, which needs to be somehow related to the topic I am proposing, right? So we need to show, at least with preliminary results or with some of our previous achievement in our research career, that we are able to develop the proposed task in the ERC grant, right? Of course, it could be some specific task that maybe I am not an expert. For example, I am not a software engineer, for example, but given that I am creating a new indicator to measure ocean equity around the world, I hired someone to develop, technically speaking, that particular task, right? So this is perfectly feasible in the context of the ERC grant. Then, of course, well, supervision of postdocs, PhD students, your leading role in reviewing activities, and funding this from other projects, right? Like, for example, Marie Curie proposal, that they are also quite prestigious in the context of the European projects. Then also try to show your early achievement track record, like, for example, the capacity to successfully develop other research projects that you were co-PI or PI, major achievement, like, for example, identify one key or several key papers that you already published in top journals. This is not really mandatory. This is what I did, right? But my opinion is that the ERC grant is not is mainly evaluating the excellence of your idea, not necessarily your CV. Of course, if your CV has, you know, a huge track record, that is obviously an added value, right? But if you are in a career that you are not able or not were able to really publish a lot of papers or in the top journals, well, that not necessarily will be ranking low or a handicap for you, right? So this is my opinion. And then also I try to highlight, well, for example, citations for example, in H index, or quotations in media, or invitation to international conference. Of course, this is relative to the Consolidator grant. This is not the same for the starting grant, right? That which is expected that your independence and your in your advance in your research career will be lower compared to the other grants like Consolidator or Advance. So what I did is basically to set up my objectives according to what I said previously. The methodology, I use working package descriptions and also case study, as I said previously, linking challenge like the decline of marine resources or increasing blue economy activities in some part of the world. In my case, I am working in Brazil, in the Amazon, with indigenous communities in West Africa, and we also have one case study with women here in Galicia, in which we have the highest number of shellfishing women working in coastal communities. And then I identify the risk level or description of each of the tasks, the resource and participant in each of these, the tasks that I propose, and also the role of potential collaborators. Then, well, this is more, let's say, for the interview. In my particular case, I just had the interview it was online. Right now, except for the synergy, right now, all of the interviews for the ERC are online. In my particular case, it was in the middle of the pandemic, and I was asked to do a 3-minute presentation without the slides, and then you receive a lot of questions from the panelists, which are composed more or less between 10 to 15 members, which is, this information is publicly available in the website of the ERC. And then my suggestion for this is just practice, practice, and practice, right? So going very briefly and already finishing to my presentation about what is my project. Basically, these are some of the key questions that I formulate in the proposal. Like, for example, what are the inequalities that are being perceived by the coastal communities? Right now, I am working with both marine protected areas and also coastal communities around the world, right? So at different levels. Then, for example, we are in terms of policy and in terms of societal impact, we are creating a new equity index that it will be published in the next couple of months, that we are testing, empirically testing this index in more than 25 marine protected areas in the world, like, for example, Galapagos, Brazil, West Africa, Australia, and New Zealand, for example, just to give you a couple of examples, right? And finally, well, we are working through all of the actors in the value chain, with small-scale fishers, with women, wholesalers, and retailers, to really know, well, where are exactly, how we can identify the inequalities through the value chain in some of the examples that we are working. This is for the case of Brazil, for example, the images that you are seeing. And that's it from my side. Hopefully, well, it was interesting for you, and I'm, well, more than happy to answer or to help with any question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. Sorry for pressing you. We have very little time, and it's so passionate, right? Marco, welcome. It's my pleasure to introduce you. So Marco Miniaci is principal investigator from Italy, based in France, doing his project Poseidon starting project at CNRS in France. So Marco, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I am just sharing my screen to start the presentation. Okay.
All good, thank you.
This very small. Okay. So, good morning, everyone. Thanks a lot for the introduction. I cannot get rid of this bar. Okay, this is smallest as possible.
We see perfectly.
Okay. It's only me seeing this. Okay. So, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or good night. I don't know, because actually we are in different places of the world. Thank you very much for the invitation. It is my pleasure to be here and to have the opportunity to share, let's say, my experience. I would like to share with you a scientific and also personal perspective, and you will understand why. So my name is Marco Miniaci. I am from Italy, and I currently work in France at the CNRS since the 1st of January 2020. Here is the outline of my presentation in bullet points. So I would like first to share with you why I decided to write an ERC proposal, maybe hoping to motivate you a little bit. Then what is my project about? So Poseidon in a nutshell. How and when I had the backbone idea of the project, because I think that talking about this is quite important. How I tried to assess the excellency and disruptive aspect of my idea, and then I will conclude with a few tips that I would like to share with you, some of which were indeed already been said by Sebastian. So why ERC? So here I would like to use a metaphor. This is me as I see myself doing research before ERC. So with this city bike, I was going, let's say, in a quite calm way along the world of research. After I got the ERC, I feel like riding a motorbike, a rather fast motorbike. Apart from the joke, I would like to stress that, in my opinion, and this is one of the reasons why I tried to write an ERC proposal, an ERC is a catalysator of experiences. What I mean is that you will really receive a huge amount of money compared with ordinary project. This money, you will be the only responsible, so you will be free, let's say, you have to follow the grant agreement, but you will be free to do the research that you wish and that you dream about. Just to give you an example, I think that in 5 years that I will be doing this ERC, I will basically live an experience of supervising PhD, collaborating with postdocs that may indeed require 10 years of research. Just to give you an idea, before the ERC, I was supervising one PhD one postdoc. The PhD was shared with other colleagues, etc. After having received the ERC, now I have my little group made of 2 PhD students, 3, 4 postdocs. You really, really change your way of doing research. Then, what is my research about? My research is about, sorry for the slides that are in French, but my project concern the noise propagation in underwater environment. So anthropic noise, okay, I hope you see the pointer. Anthropic noise is growing in these days due to human activities such as ship traffic, pile driving, underwater mining, etc. And all this, especially at an European level, has been identified as silent noise, because basically we do not hear it, but it can produce huge damage to the underwater ecosystem. So the objective of Poseidon is to achieve the control of underwater noise, of underwater waves that produce noise, to reduce this impact on the fauna. Here, for example, I put an example of a pile driving. When you hit the pile to put these wind farms offshores, you may generate noise. This noise is this yellow lines here that propagates into the sea. The problem is that this requires huge structures that from an environmental point of view, they are very impactful, very expensive. So the objective of the project, as Sebastian said, which needs to be disruptive, which needs to be a high risk, high gain project, is to introduce screens, so sound barriers, that are extremely small with respect to the current adopted solution. Here you can see an overall approach of let's say, what would be the final approach of my design. So here you have your wind farm that may generate noise. And here I propose to put a very thin barrier made of 2 layers, one layer that would reflect the noise, and another layer that, if you cannot reflect all the noise, that redirect the noise along the height of the barrier without being transmitted where, let's say, fishes and the ecosystem is. I will skip this for the lack of time. Well, maybe just 1 second. So the idea is to create a region. So here it's a wave that propagates into this system. Here there are some periodic holes, for example, and the idea is to create a region where you can see that the noise is sensibly lower. So here you have 2 examples. Here it was, the barrier was not really successfully working, and here we have another design where indeed you can create a zone where no vibration or no sound is propagating. So let's come now to how and when I had the backbone idea of my project. So here the message that I would like to pass you is that an idea like an ERC that needs to be really groundbreaking is not something that you can came up with in 1 week or 1 month or even 2 months of thinking. In my case, the project was a mixture of all the research topics that I've been carrying on since my PhD. So here I highlighted you the keywords that then I used to conceive my project. And here you can see that during my PhD, I already started using, let's say, facing problems of elastic wave propagation in some structures that are called metamaterials, so structures with a certain periodicity. Then I started working on bio-inspired materials. Then I had the chance to move to France with Marie Curie, where I started working on the smart phononic crystals for aircraft noise reduction. So you see that here I start introducing the problematic of noise reduction, but in air. Then here I worked on topological organization of these metamaterials. Again, bio-inspired hierarchical for the control of elastic waves at multiple length scale. And then since 2020, I told you that I am a researcher at the CNRS. And here I introduced the final theme, which was the sub-wavelength panel absorption for underwater acoustics. So if I have to tell you when I conceived the ERC project, I would not be able to answer you with a date, because it's something that accompanied me for the last 7-8 years. How to assess the excellency and the disruptive aspect of my idea? As also Sebastian mentioned, the very important thing is to know the state of the art, the scientific context in which you will be operating. You have to think at that point which is the missing brick that you cannot provide with ordinary research means. So you have to think, you have to put yourself in the position of not making ordinary research, because otherwise the funding that you may need to require is not an ERC. I will tell you after in the tips, but I would say that you have to write an ERC, you really have to push your dream forward. And let's now come to a few tips, which I think is the most important thing for you. So here, the first thing that should emerge in my perspective from an ERC proposal is that you are the right person for the right project. So your CV should be written and described in such a way that perfectly fits to the ERC, to the proposal objectives. You need to show that you are the only person that can carry on this project. Then I wrote in parentheses, potentially in the right laboratory. And here, for example, I put a picture of the laboratory where I currently am, where there is a water tank, a huge water tank of like 7 meters times 6 times 7, on which we can perform underwater acoustic measurements. Here you can see that there is a panel, insulating panel, with hydrophones and piezoelectric transducers that simulate noise in underwater environment. I wrote potentially in the right laboratory because actually the ERC allows you even to ask for additional money for buying additional equipment if you may not have this equipment in your lab. So of course, it may be positively perceived, but when you think to the ERC, you really have to think to you, so to a person and to an idea. The second tip that I would like to share with you is knowledge of the European and international scientific community of interests. In my case, was the acoustics. Of course, your proposal, which is made of 2 parts, a short part called B1 and a longer part, will be first assessed by non-expert. So you have to be able to convince non-expert about the scientific soundness of your idea and about its importance, etc., about its impact. Then if you pass this phase, you will go to the evaluation of the B2. And in this case, your proposal will be sent to experts in the specific area of application. So you must be sure to provide all the information, all the state of the art, and all you find useful to show that you are at the state of the art of the knowledge in your field. You have to show independence. One, I think, requirement, I don't know if it is written or not, of the ERC itself is that you must have a certain number of publications without your PhD supervisor. So ERC is to allow you to make your research independently. It's a project for one person, it's not a project for a lab or a group. Of course, your idea needs to be innovative, groundbreaking, high risk, high gain. This is very important. So basically, if your project does not have a big, high level of risk, is not an ERC. So the risk you have to take risk in writing your proposal, and then I will talk about the risk mitigation. You have to take high risk because, of course, high risky projects may have high gain results. And also, I would suggest you to think to the long term. So you have to provide a long-term vision. Your project is exploratory, will open up new roads, new research path, and you have to put this, I would suggest you to put this in the proposal. And then I put it in red and I put write in bold, give to the project writing and oral phase preparation the right time. I repeat it once again, the right time. Otherwise, you kill yourself chances of success. What I mean with this is the following. Often when we write a proposal, especially when we have teaching engagement or other obligations, we have the problem that we do not give to the project writing enough time. But here we are in a really, really competitive environment. So do not taking care of your project in the details would give you less chances of success. Just to give you an idea, then of course it will change from subject to subject, from person to person, but I can estimate that the writing of the proposal, discussing with other people, preparing the oral phase, to me, it took between 4 and 6 months. Sebastian also was saying this, have fun. I also put this have fun because one of my biggest fear while writing an ERC was, oh my God, if I will put all this time into writing a proposal and then I will not have it, I will have lost a lot of time. Actually, it's not like that, because I totally understand that it will be extremely frustrating writing a proposal without having found it. But in any case, the structuring of an ERC is so deep that allows you to structure your research for the next years, regardless if you have the motorbike or the bike.
Marco, can I ask you to wrap up?
Yes, this
Thank
was
you.
the last slide, actually. Can I go with it or shall I stop?
Yes, sure. Go ahead.
So the last slide with the tips, as I mentioned, there are two parts, B1 and B2. There is people asking themselves, shall I start with the B1, so the short version, or the B2 first? I would tell you, doesn't matter, because B1 and B2 are two different projects. They are so different. They are addressed to different audiences that you have to conceive as if they were two different projects. So do not, my suggestion is do not put a lot of time on the B2 and then say, okay, B1 will be 1 week or 2 weeks before the submission, like a sort of resume of B2. I assure you, it will not work. I suggest also to provide clear and solid preliminary results that show that your project stands on solid basis, on a solid hypothesis, which will be corroborated by an extensive risk management plan. As I told you, the ERC is a high risk, high gain. So you really have to show that you put efforts in potentially foresee all the potential risks and how you may solve them. And in case you get to the oral, repeat, 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 dot, 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 and repeat, repeat, repeat. I just tell you this funny story. While I was preparing the ERC oral, my wife was pregnant, and the first word that my son said once he came out, let's say when he gave birth, was ERC. Really repeat, repeat, repeat with people in your field, which will help you on the scientific part, but also with people that are not in your field, because you need in a very short time to convey a message to a non-specialist audience. And again, have fun. As I was saying, thanks a lot to the people that have helped me to get the ERC, and for you to the invitation. Thanks to you for the invitation, and to the audience for listening.
Thank you very much, Marco. Thanks for being so passionate. We once received a Brazilian ERC grantee, and he was saying doing research with ERC funding is like being a child in Fantasyland. So I see that you are on the same page. Congratulations.
Totally.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would like to
Thanks.
invite now Carolina Chong Montenegro, who is a team member from Ecuador originally, and she's working with the principal investigator, Francis Ludlow from Trinity College Dublin in Ireland, and they are part of an ERC synergy project. So Carolina, tell us everything. All
Hello,
good.
can you see my screen?
Yeah, all good.
Oh, perfect. Hi, everyone, and thank you very much for sticking around. And thank you, Charlotte, for the great introduction. And yes, my name is Carolina, and I'm a postdoctoral researcher at Trinity College Dublin. And I am part of this Four Oceans team, a ERC Synergy Grant project. And I'll be speaking to you about the project itself, the importance of it, my role on it, and a little bit on the journey of my life and how I ended up in this project. So I'd like to start this talk by introducing the aims and scope of this project and what makes it so ambitious and very interesting to be part of. Four Oceans aims to assess the importance of marine life for human society over the past 2 millennia. More specifically, this project aims to determine when and where marine exploitation of major significance to human society occurred, how these socioeconomic, cultural, and environmental forces drive, constrain, and enable marine exploitation, and what were the consequences of marine exploitation for societal development and the oceans. And in order to answer these complex research questions, an interdisciplinary team of researchers from different backgrounds, including environmental history, archaeology, and geography, were needed to put together. So the principal investigators of Four Oceans are Paul Holmes from Trinity College Dublin, James Perry from the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, Cristina Brito from University of Nova Lisboa, and Francis Ludlow from Trinity College Dublin. And here is a schematic representation of how Four Oceans plans to achieve these goals. And it's through the use of the different word package, as mentioned before, we're aiming to create a world atlas of marine exploitation across the globe over the past 2 millennia. And at the moment, we're focusing on numerous case studies across 3 transects globally. So transect number 1 includes the global north, where a very well-documented and studied region. Transect number 2 includes the global south, an area characterized primarily by indigenous consumption of marine resources. And transect number 3 includes the Atlantic Basin Ocean with a focus on highly migratory animals like whales. So given the aims and scope of this big project, Four Oceans comprise a large number of researchers with different research backgrounds and discipline. So it's been really a true honor to be working alongside with this amazing group of researchers and beginning to learn so much from them, as well as exchanging knowledge with them. So why are we investigating the past? So why is understanding the past so important for current ecosystem management? And it's because we need to understand the magnitude and direction of environmental change, and in order to lead informed restoration and conservation targets of our oceans. In other words, we need to create historical baselines at which we can measure environmental change. And these historical baselines are important because if we ignore them, we might fall on what is known the shifting baseline syndrome. And this occurs when a generation acknowledges the current environmental state as natural without accounting for past ecosystem states. And as we know, changes in the marine environment has occurred for millennia. However, the systematic ecological data to inform these changes only covers a few decades, long after exploitation and overfishing of aquatic resources, along with environmental degradation, already occurred. Oops. So therefore, as an historical ecologist, we're looking into alternative sources that can help provide long-term understanding of past ecosystems. And these sources might include oral histories, photographs, newspaper articles, trade documents, and narrative about our past. And while these archives can vary in their temporal scale, well, we need to provide a long-term understanding. When we put them together, we can create an understanding of past ecosystems that can help inform current conservation actions. So what can these archives help reveal about past dynamics? And these archives that we are using on this project will depend on the type of research question that we try to answer. And for example, some nautical charts can help reveal about the extent of past coral systems. Logbooks from whaling ships have been used to inform about past species abundances and distribution. And newspaper articles can help inform about social drivers and behavioral change within a community. And for now, I will focus on the use of historical habitat charts to quantify changes in the extent of kelp forests in Tasmania over the past 2 centuries as part of my Four Oceans role. So first of all, we need to define what is kelp. And kelp is a giant large brown algae that can grow up to 30 meters tall. And at the water's surface, it can form extensive seaweed canopies that create underwater forests. These underwater forests host a vital habitat for a variety of marine life. In addition, these kelp forests provide essential ecosystem services to many coastal communities, and these include habitat, coastal protection, habitat for commercially valuable fish species, opportunities for tourism, and in many regions, it has been of cultural significance. So why Australia? So in Australia, forests of kelp have predominantly been found in Tasmania, and this is because the waters around this small island are relatively cool and nutrient-rich, providing suitable conditions for the growth of giant kelp and persistence. However, the abundance, distribution, and resilience of these kelp forests are threatened by ongoing physical, biological, and anthropogenic factors. And it's because of the accelerated loss of these forests over the past decades that giant kelp has now been classified as an endangered marine community type under the Federal Environmental Protection Law here as of 2012. However, given the importance of these forests as ecosystem services in these coastal communities, such as they're providing habitat for lobster fishing and very increased fisheries here, restorations are currently being taken by organizations such as the Nature Conservancy to help restore these systems. However, in order to find suitable areas for kelp restoration, we need to understand where they were in the past and to which extent they existed. So more specifically in this project, we were able to quantify the historical extent of kelp forests using 19th century Admiralty charts. And we focus on 19th century charts because this period combined exploration with science. And this is the time where we're talking about the HMS Beagle and Charles Darwin. So then we use those historical Admiralty charts to understand where kelp existed in Tasmania at the time. We then extracted modern data from the government in Tasmania and using modern aerial surveys along for surveys through time. And lastly, using this information, we were able to quantify kelp forest persistence and characterize the depth of remnant kelp forest over time. I'm just going to show some very brief results. That this is still a work that is currently under review. And first, we compare the total kelp, the information that we were surveying from the historical period through time, and we found a significant decline in the total kelp area over time. Second, in terms of kelp forest persistence, kelp stands, we found that the majority, unfortunately, of kelp has largely disappeared across all sites, and by 2019, most of the kelp stand has largely disappeared. However, not all is lost and not all is doom and gloom for the future of marine ecosystems. There is still some hope for Tasmania kelp forest as well. So the Nature Conservancy is as well with the University of Tasmania and with information that we've been collecting as part of this project, we found that kelp can be successfully restored, particularly in areas where it used to thrive. So this is a clear example where we combine history with ecology to help inform conservation and restoration strategies. So now you must be wondering how I ended up here. Sometimes I wondered that too. And well, I would like to take the opportunity to talk a little bit about my trajectory as a Latina in marine research and in science, and how this background have led me to work with a global community in Europe. And so it all started in Ecuador, where I'm from. And I had the amazing opportunity to work with small-scale fisheries in the Galapagos Island, and that's where I learned about the impacts a human can have on fragile marine ecosystems. And it was because of this experience that allowed me to pursue a master's degree. I then got the opportunity to go into to move to Germany, where I pursued a master's degree in aquatic tropical ecology. And during this time, I had I worked back in Latin America in Colombia, and where I applied this gain knowledge from Europe into these small scale fisheries in remote Pacific Colombia. So if you know where the Choco is, that's where I worked. I then wanted to continue to pursue this degree, and then I obtained a scholarship to do my PhD at University of Queensland, University of Exeter. And my research there focused heavily on the historical ecology of fisheries in Australia. And that's where my interest in history and in these interdisciplinary approaches, working along with other researchers in other disciplines, became very apparent. So there's through some of these interdisciplinary approaches, I apply a different variety of methods brought from ecology, fisheries, and history, basically to understand the impact of human activities on vulnerable fish populations and ecosystems. Whoops. And so my take-home message, some of my tips that I want to encourage to those listening, especially if you're an early career researcher, is that to network as much as you can, talk to people about your interests, and do not be afraid to reach out. People are there to answer at a given time. Apply for opportunities that you're excited to be part of, and that translates into a successful application. And when that doesn't happen, do not give up, persist. It is a matter of opportunities. Just keep trying, and also engage with research groups and participate in research activities where you can, and look at upcoming opportunities in these platforms that have been given to us. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Carolina. Great career path, and you are a very good example of researcher mobility, right? Thank you for the presentation of the project also. If you want to come back also, Sebastian and Marco, we have very little time and I'm sorry for that. But Sebastian, you received a question about your project and more general, if the ERC also funds coastal areas, the soil, plastic pollution in the coastal zone, but I think it does, right? You spoke about this area also. Do you want to complement?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There is no restriction in terms of areas or in terms of topics. When we are talking about marine research, you need to just be aware about the panel that you are applying your proposal, if there is in economics or is in social science, but in principle, there is no any restriction about the areas that you need to or want to work in your ERC grant.
And this is a good example that we have today. We have 3 projects, different areas, although I can see synergies in between the first and the last one also. But this is to show a little bit of the variety of the research done, all driven by excellence and all of them funded by the ERC. So let me share you the dates of the next calls by the ERC. 2 of them are open now. The synergy call is open until October. And the Consolidator will open tomorrow for the candidates. And we also have the Synergy grant, which is open until November. If you have questions, if you want to look into those opportunities, you can watch the recording of a webinar held by the ERC last week. And it's already available in the page that appears on your screen. So we heard from our speakers that it offers wonderful opportunities, right? And we hope you are interested in going further and maybe submit your own application. If you are a little bit frightened about the excellence word that we heard several times, you can also be recruited, as Carolina is, in one of the projects already funded by the ERC. The open position should be available on EURAXESS job portal. So this is an opportunity for you. You just can create an alert and be notified when a position matching your profile is published. Okay, if you want to give a final word, I'm sorry because we are running out of time. Carolina, Marco, Sebastian, the floor is yours.
Well, just very briefly, just don't be afraid to submit your proposal and just follow your dream. Of course, based on excellence. And well, from my side, I will be very happy to help or have any exchange by Zoom or any meeting with any potential candidates that I will be more than happy to help, because other colleagues did the same for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Sebastian.
The same from my side. Feel free to contact me at any moment if you have questions or you wish to receive any further suggestion. I will be more than happy to discuss.
Thank you, Marco.
And same goes for me as well. If you want to know about my experience as a postdoc on a Synergy grant, more than happy to talk, and how it also about mobility. And yeah, just please reach out and I'll be happy to have a chat in Spanish, Portuguese, or English. So
wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Victoria, thank you. Thank you to our colleagues from North America, EURAXESS North America. And to all the participants, we wish you a very wonderful night, evening, afternoon, and day to everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.